Hello, welcome to this new lecture series. This is James Yu. So let's go to the board and let me introduce myself and let's begin, okay? So first of all, my name is James. Well, this is my English name and my Korean name is Harim. And you, right? It's like you, like, you know, whatever, right? I wrote a book which is like 몰입 공부, and if you're interested in it, like, you know, you could read it. And for those people who already know me, you would know my style. And you know, I'm gonna go through with SAT2 materials, which is function and algebra and trigonometry and geometry and probability and statistics and so forth. All right, so we're gonna deal with today as the function itself. And because the function is kind of, you know, the major part of this whole Math 2C, and usually it asks you whether you understand the geometry of the function and at the same time algebraic equations of the function. So in function, it's not a big deal, right? But for those people who are unfamiliar with the word function, I'm gonna go through with the definition of function and I'm gonna explain word by word, right? Unlike the other lectures, like, you know, what I did for AP or, you know, some just problem solution sessions, I'm gonna go through in details, all right? So I hope you are getting these things like perfectly fine in order to get 800. Okay, so let's get started. So let's start with a function, right? So what do you know about function? What do you know about function? Well, I don't necessarily know a function. Well, what is function? I would say it is an assignment, all right? So it is an assignment from a certain set A to certain set B. This is not a definition, this is just intuitive definitions. And you know, as you have seen a lot, you have seen that this type of diagram, right? And you have learned that some elements in set A and some elements in set B, you have connected, right? You have sent those elements in A to elements in B by drawing the arrows. And that's we call a set. That's we call a function. But what is a function? You don't necessarily understand what this means, right? So I would say this is kind of a map. Just think it as a map. Don't think it as, you know, just plug some input and, you know, get some output. That's kind of, you know, hard math. Let's make it easy, right? It is a map. This drawing arrow is a certain part of the map that you're looking at. And how to draw this thing? Well, first we have to create some map, right? So let's kind of create something that you have learned so far. First, for set A, right? For set A, let's draw a line. Usually, the set A in the polynomials that we're gonna look at. So function, we have a lot of types. You know, we have polynomial function, line function, right? Linear function or quadratic function, cubic function, or sometimes rational function and so forth, right? Trigonometric function. But in this case, we usually call this x-axis, right? But what is x? It is a variable. That's what you have learned, right? But here's the thing. In this line, we have real numbers, right? All numbers. And those numbers are set A. Let's call that set A. Right? Let's call that set A, and let's draw an orthogonal line, which means perpendicular line, right? Perpendicular line, and let's call Y, which is set B. And how you construct the coordinate system is using the pair ordered pair. So this is a vocabulary that you have to remember, ordered pair. Now, if you look at a lot of math, you know, the textbook or any other textbook, they're gonna teach you, you know, x coordinate of 2 and y coordinate of 3, right? And 3 actually happens to be in this set, and 2 happens to be in this set. And we create those rectangles, and we call that point 2 and 3, right? 2.3. Now that's how we use this ordered pair. So this 2 must be in set A, and this 3 must be in set B. Do you understand? Right? And for the thing that we have to learn is something called domain and range, right? But let's think about polynomials first. Let's say we have a simplest function, which is y is equal to 4. It is a constant function. It is not even what? It's not even a linear function. Well, it is a linear function, but it's not a line equation, right? We don't have any slanted line, right? We have this particular line, y is equal to 4, right? So we draw this line, vertical line, to this y-axis, and we call this what? We call this y is equal to 4. And that is particularly function, because for any set A, for any numbers in set A, -1, we create this point, and for -2, we create this point, and for 1, we create this point, and those set of numbers are in set B, right? But what about the range of this function? What is codomain of this function? As you could see that, you know, -1 or -2 is not in this function, right? So let's use this notation, let's use this geometry, and let's change it, you know, let's kind of convert it backward. So for set A, in this case, for set A, we have a lot of numbers, right? -1,000, like -pi, and so forth, 0, and 1, and so forth. And we have set B, which is 4, right? And each and every number sends backward, sends back to 4. And you know, as you could see, this drawing, we call it a set. Now, in this case, we call it not one-to-one function. Sometimes, you know, one-to-one function is something that you have learned, which means for each element, we have unique value of B. But in this case, we have only one value, and it's not unique for each values of that, right? But we call this function as n-to-1 function, n-to-1 function. Because for n numbers in set A, we send it to 1 values in set B. And we call this set B as range. This particular value as 4. But however, set B, as you could see right now, we have 1, 2, 3, and 5, and 7, and so forth. We have a line, a vertical line, right? We have this vertical line that is connected, but the only value that has for the function is 4 itself. So range of this function, it becomes 4. But we call it codomain, which is larger than range. We call it the real numbers. And the reason why I write this R and another dash sign in front of it, this is a notation for the real numbers, okay? So this is a real numbers. As you could see, set B, this orthogonal line, the perpendicular line to x-axis is what? It is equal to what? The whole numbers, right? The real numbers. Well, -1 is real number, -pi must be real number, right? 1/2, which lies in this point, must be real numbers. But this function doesn't have that value included, right? So range and codomain is not necessarily true. So this is a vocabulary that you have to remember. Not necessarily for codomain, because SAT2 doesn't usually ask the existence of codomain. And you haven't learned how to construct this x-axis and y-axis. And you haven't even learned in any algebra, any geometry in high school. I blame those people, right? I blame those instructors who haven't taught you about this. But look at this. Have you ever thought about this ordered pair can be connected to this geometry, right? This is how we construct with perpendicular lines instead of using slanted lines for set B, okay?